Layla.
Welcome back to our channel, Elementary, my dear.
We're gonna make nutrition science easy for you to digest.
Today we're going to talk about if avocados are the secret to good health.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss one of our videos.
So I think it was, March 30th? Woke up to every headline on the planet.
CNN, Bloomberg,
Independent, the other ones, all of them.
avocado.
Avocado reduces risk for heart disease.
Stop the presses. There's wars going on places.
Forget all that.
Avocados. That's what we need to talk about.
In a lot of our videos, we always like to harp on the fact that there's no single food that's ever gonna overhaul your health. It's not gonna make or break your health, like one single food. It's always about the entire diet, all sorts of other lifestyle variables. But this study made it seem like, no, avocado is the exception.
This is the one thing you need.
I'm a huge avocado person.
I love avocado.
Love avocado.
Staple on my grocery list.
I feel like avocados really have come into their own. They've had their heyday, I think in the past 10 years.
Boomers like to tell millennials that avocado toast is the reason why we can't afford houses.
So maybe now we can use this study and be like, well, at least we're gonna be heart healthy.
So let's talk about the study. Is it true that avocados are gonna drastically reduce your risk for heart disease? So first of all, cardiovascular disease, that's an umbrella term that includes coronary heart disease and stroke. And it is actually one of the #1 causes of death in North America. And it's one of those causes that's largely influenced by diet and lifestyle variables, which is why I think there's a lot of interest in research going into finding ways to reduce risk for heart disease as a whole. An avocado, amazing. It's a very nutrient-dense fruit, has monounsaturated fats, fiber, potassium, magnesium. All of these things in isolation have been linked to cardiovascular disease in the sense that all of those things individually seem to be protective against heart disease. So I think going into it, it actually does make sense that avocados, as part of an overall healthy diet and lifestyle, would be beneficial for heart health.
What the study did is they went and they found some data that had already been collected. And it's actually in a very specific group of people. The first group that they looked at was the nurses' health study. 120,000 nurses, and just followed them over time and saw what their habits were. And then also health professionals follow-up study, and that was in 50,000 males. Same thing, they just followed them over time, saw how things went. They asked them how much avocado they're eating.
When they first started collecting data, they collected baseline dietary information. So they used a food frequency questionnaire, covered all sorts of dietary things: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, oils, and processed meats, and other types of meat. And also avocado is also on that list. And they did this food frequency questionnaire every 4 years over a 30-year period, which is awesome.
Honestly, huge improvements over the last vegetable study that was like, one time 12 years ago, how many tablespoons of vegetables did you eat? And also they didn't measure it in tablespoons. So that's 2 big pluses for them.
On top of that, they also collected a wide range of other information, things like lifestyle factors, smoking status, physical activity, socioeconomic information, all sorts of things. And they did collect that information every 2 years over the follow-up period. They basically followed all of these people until either there was a death, loss of follow-up, or they were diagnosed with cardiovascular disease.
They ran their numbers, did all these fancy calculations, and they had a few different interesting key results.
Is that a technical term? Fancy
Calculations.
calculations?
They did some fancy little calculations. The first one being that avocado intake increased over the period of study.
It makes perfect sense. Avocado really blew up in the last decade or two. I don't think it was that common in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, specifically Mexico avocados. I get ads for them.
You get avocado ads?
Yeah.
Big avocado is out to get you?
I think I just reached peak dietitian.
That's so weird. I've never had produce being marketed.
They also found that people who eat more avocados tend to have better quality diets in general. So eating more fruits and vegetables, whole grain, all those things that we associate with having a high quality diet. I'm not super surprised by this. Avocados are expensive, and they're also very much marketed as a health food. So I think if you're buying them, you're probably more health conscious.
It's also a very finicky produce compared to a lot of other ones. I think people that are more intentional with their diet overall are probably the ones eating more avocado.
But this is the big news. This is the news we've all been waiting for. Drumroll please. This is what was on the front page of CNN. Compared to people who did not eat avocados, those who had avocados twice a week, basically one whole avocado, had a 16% lower risk of cardiovascular disease.
Yes!
which is pretty crazy. They adjusted for all sorts of other dietary and lifestyle variables as well. That's a pretty big finding, which is, I guess, why everyone was so hyped about it. I think the most interesting part of the study for me personally was they also decided to estimate the change in risk by doing some interesting swaps. So they wanted to see if you were to replace your intake of things like margarine and mayo and butter and processed meats with equivalent amount of avocado, how would your level of risk change? Their rationale for doing those specific swaps was that apparently those are normal culinary swaps that we as humans make. And they were like,
whoa, your risk for cardiovascular disease goes down.
And then they did a similar thing, substituting olive oil, nuts, and other plant oils with avocado. And with this, they actually found no significant difference. That's a very important part of the study that's maybe not being emphasized as much as it should be. Basically, what they're finding is that swapping avocado with a lot of other plant sources that are also rich in the same healthy fats doesn't actually seem to be different in terms of cardiovascular health, which makes sense. The point being that it doesn't seem like it's the avocado specifically. It's more about the variety of nutrients that you get in avocado that you can also get in a variety of other foods. One really interesting thing to note, the two cohorts that they followed for this research, health professionals follow-up study, which had 51,000 US males, and the nurses health study, which had 121,000 US females. It was interesting because the females, the age group was 30 to 55 years old, whereas the males were 40 to 75 years old. Those two age groups don't have a lot of overlap.
Especially with men and women, because men do have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, and also that tends to happen earlier on. 30 to 55 in women, you're not really going to see high rates of cardiovascular disease. Also, when I think of this is purely my own bias, I don't have data about this, but when I think of a 75-year-old man,
I don't think avocados are a good part of their diet. Research does show that women tend to be more health conscious than men. To me, just based on the cohorts that they used, I'm wondering if there was some bias there that increased the likelihood that higher intake of avocado was also associated with the lower risk for cardiovascular disease. But anyway, all that being said, avocados are absolutely very nutrient dense. We know that. They are filled with monounsaturated fats, fiber, potassium, magnesium, something like monounsaturated fats. The main one in avocado is a thing called oleic acid, and that has been shown to help improve endothelial function, help hypertension and insulin sensitivity, and also helps reduce inflammation.
Things like fiber, that helps reduce cholesterol and can also help with regulating blood sugar. Potassium, that's very helpful in keeping your blood pressure at a healthy, normal level.
Avocados are also rich in something called plant sterols, which are basically analogs of cholesterol. They actually help improve your blood lipid profile and are actually protective against cardiovascular disease. Avocados have all of these nutrients that have independently been shown to be protective against cardiovascular disease. It does make sense that people that are eating avocado in the context of an overall healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle probably do have lower risk for cardiovascular disease.
But this study doesn't mean that you need to scrap completely what you're eating and go buy only avocados, because all of these things that we're talking about, like dietary fiber, potassium, magnesium, monounsaturated fats, those can be found in other elements of the diet that you guys are probably having already. Basically every fruit and vegetable is high in fiber, potassium and magnesium. Monounsaturated fats, those are great from olive oil, from other nuts and seeds, which is exactly what they found in the study, is that swapping out avocado for these things doesn't really do anything. I think that we really like to try and focus on one food and be like, this is the one food for health. But that's just not really the case.
Which is a good thing. Now you have permission to eat a wide variety of foods without putting too much stock on one thing.
Really, this study told us what we already knew. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss one of our videos, and follow us on our Instagram and our TikTok.
Thank you for watching.
Bye!